right. Whew, I think we're live. Oh man. Okay, so welcome everybody. I am really excited about this one. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is an idea. I can't remember who gave me this idea. It was someone in the last week's live stream. Where they asked for feedback, and someone said it'd be cool to get feedback live, but I thought it'd be fun. It's a lot less work on my side of things, having to plan a lesson plan or anything, and yeah, as you can see, I've gotten quite a few submissions. 3 pages of submissions. Each of them wonderful music. I've given each of them a little bit of a listen first, but I figured we'd give a real deep listen live. So they're written in the order that I received them. And there are a few others that I didn't get a chance to add because I saw that they had been sent earlier today. Unfortunately, the deadline was yesterday, but I will be doing more of these. So if we don't get a chance to get to your music today, no worries. I'll be doing another live session next week, and we'll go a little bit deeper. But Crash Save, welcome. Yeah, as usual, feel free to comment, my friends, with any questions, comments, ideas, inspiration, anything. Feel free. It's always fun to have a conversation. But this first one is submitted by Remy. I'm going to apologize right off the bat if I mispronounce anybody's name. I apologize. But this one is from Remy. We've got a link to a YouTube video. There were no requests, nothing specific asked about this. And one of the cool things is Remy actually shared a score with us on MuseScore that we can look at. But welcome. We've got more and more people showing up. But yeah, let's check out the first one. All right. I like the visuals. Definitely a minimalist piece. Let's read, shall we? Nice. I love the visuals. The idea of working with the rhythm instead of the notes in such a minimalistic piece is really cool. The way they're all connected too. Alright. Remy, if you're on the stream or if you're watching later, what software did you do to make the visuals? Is it Bandicam up here? No idea what that is. I got some ideas here. I'm just kind of transfixed by these visuals. Ooh. Alright, we got something happening. Reminds me of like those old documentaries from the 80s or 90s. I don't know how old the audience is, how old you people are. Like you get like the old documentaries and the giant TVs during school that the teacher would wheel in. looks like a cool video, but nope. Gotta stay. Yeah, I should probably disconnect my automatic play. All right, so Remy, that was really, really cool. So for those of you who are watching who are unfamiliar with minimalism, minimalism is a type of modernist music from the 20th century that started building popularity. And of course, I could be completely wrong. This is what I know about it. But the basic idea behind minimalism is to get away from the grandiosity of the Romantic period and even some of the Impressionist music, and classical music especially, where there's layers, there's all kinds of complication. Minimalism likes to say, here's a short idea, and we're going to repeat it. Now, the tricky part with minimalism is it can get, by its very nature, very repetitive and very quickly fall into the background kind of image, like background noise kind of world. So if I were to do something like this, I think, well, like, where was it? You had one moment where you just started blitzing out. Where is it, like 2:22? Yep, around the 2 minutes 22 mark. This is a fantastic development. Now, a couple things that I would recommend is, one, if you were to do this development and you want to keep it in this spot, you need to find a way to make the first half, the first 2 minutes and 20 seconds, give them a little bit more life. I mean, maybe you don't have to. This is my personal opinion. I would recommend, you've got multiple layers going on here. You got dun 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum. And then you've got in the chimes, and then what was it down here? So you've got the piano chords, you've got the chimes, you've got the lower piano. You've got a couple different layers. So something you could do to make more mileage out of this is introduce them one layer at a time. All right, so you've got the, say, like the bass line, the lower part on the piano. Start with that line. How does that go? Let's see here. Bum 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 ba da ba dum bum 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 ba da bum. Something like that. Start with the lower piano. Then, after that's played through an entire phrase, maybe like 8 measures or however long your phrase are, then introduce the next layer. Then after 8 measures of us being able to be familiar with that, or however long a full phrase length is, you add another layer. This is called incremental complexity. In fact, let me pull up some notes, shall I? It'll be helpful to have like a notepad for everybody. All right, so for minimalist music, you need to get the most mileage out of your mini ideas as you can. So a couple ideas for this is incremental complexity. All right, that's introducing one element at a time. All right, so again, start with the low notes, then jump to the next one. If you want to go back into like the Baroque period and those kind of principles, the fugues are built very much the same, where you have an idea that bounces around and each layer enters. So something you could do is have a new idea enter at every phrase. Do one layer, and then you repeat it in the next phrase, but this time you add another one. And if you want to get the most out of it, a little trick is that every time you introduce a layer, it should either be the highest or the lowest layer playing at that moment. So actually, it might be interesting to start with the middle idea, then go to the bass idea, then go to the high idea. If you do that, and I'm assuming these are like 8-bar ideas, suddenly you've got 24 bars. Is that right? 8 plus 8 is 16 plus another 8 is 24. Yep. You've got 24 measures of an idea developing, but you've only used 3 ideas. And so that's a great way to get more mileage out and to still get the idea of a developing material. But all in all, I really enjoyed this piece. All right, so the visuals are really cool. The idea of having the rhythms being emphasized is very unique. I love that. Like I said, it was giving me a lot of like vibes of like old school documentaries kind of stuff. But I think the development at the 2 minutes and 22 second marker is really, really cool. And one of the reasons why it pays off is because we have such a long, repetitive section beforehand. So I would say just try to get a little bit more mileage out of those initial ideas by introducing them one at a time so that the audience can get familiar with each individual layer first. And then they can start like exploring the sound before we get to the development. Make sense? Hopefully that helps. Let's see here. Welcome. Pavel, thank you. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you sent me a reminder. Yes, thank you. I'm so sorry. I will email you right after this. After the live stream, I'll send you an email. In fact, off screen, I'm going to pull your email up right now. I appreciate it. I have been swamped. Let's see here. Where are you? In fact, and there we go. All right, I've got your email pulled up, Pavel. I will respond to you right after the live stream. Thank you, and apologies. Michael, or Mitchell, welcome. So welcome, everybody. So we just listened to our first piece. Excellent work, Remy. Yeah, awesome. Really cool to start off with a minimalist piece. Not a lot of people do minimalism or modernist music. Especially since my focus is like on film scoring. It's really cool to see what other people are into. Aditya, here we go. Aditya, one of the longtime supporters of these live streams. All right, so we've got the link to the music here. The request I've been asked is harmony. Is it good? Out of 10, how much? So you want me to rate your harmony? How inspired is it? How cohesive is it? Kind of stuff. I'm not sure. That'll be tricky without being able to see the harmony written out or the chord progression. But let's give a listen to it, shall we? Here we go. That is not the link from Aditya, is it? Let's see here. Let me get the email. Sorry about that. Everybody, give me a second. Here we go. Aditya live stream. Here we are. Sorry for the poor quality. Please help in comments and bigger and clearer screen. Can see all the things I normally look at. A lot of strongman videos, one of my favorite audience, or one of my favorite musicians, Divide, and a whole bunch of music stuff. Aditya, that was awesome. All right, so first off, harmony is a bit trickier to give feedback on, just because, you know, it's something I prefer to take a bit more time on. But what I can give feedback on is how it sounds. All right. I think your harmony is really inspired. I love the extensions. What's going on here? All right. There you go. I love the extensions. The extensions give a lot of personality and cool, kind of smooth personality to the sound. And there are moments when you go a lot lower than chords normally do. But this is kind of a jazzier piece, and it works, especially because you have a kind of smooth felt piano, it sounds like. A very kind of muffled piano sound. Lower registers on a felt piano tend to work better than on a regular piano. It's because a felt piano has felt laid across the strings. It muffles the strings. It removes some of the overtones, or at least makes them soft enough that we can't really hear them, so they don't clash as bad. So you did an excellent instrument choice for this chord progression. The one thing I'd say to help improve this piece is to make a little bit more clarity between the melody and the harmony. All right? So, great piece. Let's say, tips for improving. All right, so again, I want to start off, I want to reiterate the things that I love about this piece. Beautiful harmonies, you did a great job with that. The one thing I'd think that would help improve it is there's no separation between your harmony and your melody at the moment. There's some voice leading that goes along, but for the most part, it looks like they're all the same velocity, so all the notes are being hit around the same strength, although maybe it's just the settings. But if you were to add a little bit more separation, or a little bit more emphasis. So remember, I've done lots of videos on this, but the 3 pillars of strong orchestration / arranging. All right, you want to have focus, separation, and balance. All right, so you've got great balance. All right, it all sounds good. You don't have any layer clearly stronger than the others. The 2 that you're missing a little bit on this on focus and separation. Something you could probably do with that is to raise the melody an octave. And of course, since you're playing with both hands here, you can bring some notes with it. But you could also help emphasize the melody a bit more with the melody. Really, I think that's the biggest part here. It's just creating a little bit more separation between the melody and harmony. Because what's happening is if we listen to this, let's see here. That's great. Beautiful. It's starting to get a little muddy just because it's starting to be difficult to tell what the melody is. Usually it's the top line, but as we go, since there's no separation in volume, there's no separation in articulation kind of thing, the ideas blend together. Now maybe that is the idea that you're looking for. That's great if it is. But one other thing I noticed is these little notes here. Let's go wide. If you're looking for strictly harmony tips, we're seeing a very short chord at the beginning of a measure. That won't usually happen. Mostly because short notes leading into a longer note tends to emphasize the longer note. And so to emphasize a longer chord on a weak beat or beat 2 of the measure can sometimes come off as a little janky. But for the most part, this is great. So I'd say move this back 1 beat, make this chord a little bit shorter, make sure that that short chord that like transitions into our new target is a bit earlier so that this one can really land nice and solidly on beat number 1. Does that make sense? But all in all, I'm loving this vibe. Yeah, fantastic choice in harmony. Fantastic choice in harmony, fantastic choice in instrumentation. My 2 big tips for, just to summarize, find a way to make the melody. I just realized the music is probably very loud compared to my voice. So to summarize, fantastic melody, harmonies, fantastic instrument choice to work with these harmonies. Oh, 1 second, this is my favorite part. The little. I just like that. I like the da 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 da. So yeah, great sound, great vibe, great instrument, great chords. To improve it, I would recommend making the melody a little bit more prominent, a little bit easier to stick out as the foreground, and to pay attention to which chords are targets and which chords are transitions. Usually shorter chords transition into longer ones. So if a shorter chord is followed by a longer chord, it's because you're emphasizing the longer chord and you're using the shorter one to build into it. So when you're doing that, the transition or the approach chords should be placed on relatively weaker beats than the strong ones. If you'd like to learn more about that, I'd recommend checking out my playlist on quick theory and check out the video on secondary dominance. It goes into detail about that. But awesome, great piece, Aditya. I loved it. Thank you for sharing it. And yeah, thanks for being a longtime supporter of the channel, my friend. All right, let's see here. Any questions? When you say you're going to play the whole thing, yes. Tertion, that sounds great. Nice gem. Awesome, yeah. Noir Felt, is that the piano? I'm not sure, but I'm loving the vibe. All right, so awesome. Off the 2 strong spots, we next have Yi Chong. All right, again, got the link here. Requests here are for melody, structure, and arrangement. In fact, let me write these down. Melody, structure, arrangement. All right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Still in the process of naming it. That's right. Yi, you sent me an email and you were asking if I had any recommendations for the title. Sadly, I am terrible at naming my own pieces. It's my least favorite part about composing. So, I probably won't have anything. I'll try. But if anyone else comes up with something, put it in the comments. All right, let's start over so I can actually listen to it. All right, Yee, that was wow. All right, I really, really enjoyed that. Great melody, great arrangement. And these, if I'm not mistaken, these are kind of the default sounds from GarageBand, aren't they? So these are just little synth sounds, which is a great example that you can still have great music from kind of cheap, well, not cheap, but from just whatever you've got available. All right, so a couple things. I would say, all right, so first off, you wanted feedback on the melody. I'll be honest, I was enjoying the melody too much to listen critically. All right, which is a good thing. It works really well. Your melody is very catchy. Whatever you're doing, melody writing is working. All right, structure-wise, same thing. Your structure, things were relatively repetitive. I think you only had like one or maybe two themes in there. But the arrangement works really, really well. So you did something with the arrangement that you can hear in a lot of John Williams scores, which is interesting because they're very different sounds. It's very much kind of an anime, kind of video game type vibe. But John Williams will take very simple ideas and repeat them multiple times. But what he does is he bounces the theme around to different arrangements. Sometimes the strings are playing by themselves. Other times the brass and percussion are just going ham on it. Other times the woodwinds are playing very lightly and very chilly. And that's something you did really, really well here, was bouncing around. You're using the instruments you have and you're moving them around, and it keeps the arrangement really, really interesting. So like if we listen to it again from the beginning, we won't listen to the whole thing, but we get the basic motif introduced. And it's a repeat. The build-in with the drums is really cool. Swap again. This works really well, all right? So you're using the most heavy instruments, and that's really awesome. Now, of course, I need to offer some constructive feedback, some constructive criticism. So I think it was around the 142 mark. So this part works, but not as well as the rest. And one of the reasons why is you're doing a strong variation here. You are changing the rhythm quite a bit. That can work, but what you need to do is you need to give the audience context, something to still allow it to come through. So I would recommend maybe a more simplified version of the drum beat. Drums continue if they're still playing the same beat, just a little bit more subdued, or maybe you've got it on just like a drum pad or something soft. But something that carries us through and still helps provide the strong beats. So even if the piano is playing much more syncopated, if you have something to give it a little bit more clappability. So what happens is when the beat comes out, for myself to try and hear it. So there are some weird things you do tempo-wise, that's fine. But I would anytime you're going to do something a bit farther out, anytime you're going to mess with the theme a bit, especially when we've had the same theme over and over again, I'd recommend having at least one element that's still the same. All right, so this isn't the first time the piano comes in, but you're changing the melody. You'd want to give something underneath. Maybe a simple bass line. Maybe a simple counter in the drums. Just something keeping the beat to help keep the momentum moving forward so that we don't go from something super fast-paced into suddenly something a bit more avant-garde. And you could do that. You've got a little bit of the drums, but if you could keep something driving underneath it, even if it's much more softer, it would still keep this thing going really well. But all in all, fantastic piece. I really enjoy this. And I just realized I haven't been liking these. I need to go back and like the other two. Let's see here. No, that was the wrong one again. Aditya. Let's see. That's right, Aditya. I had the wrong link on here. Sorry, I know how frustrating it can be. Well, I mean, like, I know how difficult and how much... Man, Aditya, I love those first chords. I love your harmony. Your harmony choice is just... I'm a sucker for extended harmonies, for seventh chords, and ninths and all that. So... I'm loving it. There hasn't been a bad piece yet. These are amazing. Which, I mean, not that there are going to be any bad pieces, I'm sure. But, oh man, I'm really enjoying myself, guys. This is like the best idea I've had in a long time. Thank you. Let's see here. Tamashi, thank you so much for the review. It sounds a whole lot weirder on the computer. Somehow the mix got muddy, but it is lab stuff. No worries. So that happens all the time, especially when you spend so much time listening to your own music. And then when you take some time away and your ears are fresh, you start to hear things. I mean, I do that with my own music all the time. But all in all, it was a great arrangement, Tamashi. I really enjoyed it. This is awesome. Pistachioso, how to submit music for this. I'm assuming you mean for this. I will post on Instagram. You can just send me an email with the music. I prefer links. All right, I don't like to download things just because I don't have a lot of space on my computer. So it would be smoother if you can send me a link to either a YouTube video with your music or a link to your SoundCloud of the music. And I can then give feedback. When you send it, also include some specific notes, if possible, for things you would like feedback on. So, for example, Yi Chong, who we just listened to, wanted feedback on melody, structure, and arrangement. I can't promise I'll always give you the feedback you're looking for, but I'll share what I got, because I'm listening to a lot of these for the first time in full now. But yeah, I'm probably going to be doing at least a few more of these. I'm really enjoying myself. So Mitchell, here we go. Mitchell is next. Mitchell is from Cairo, Egypt, which is really cool. I always love hearing where everybody's from, because it's just kind of cool to see. I mean, I'm from a small town in Midwest United States, and so just hear all the people, like just the people on the complete opposite side of the planet watching my videos and enjoying what I do is just really cool to me. All right, so Mitchell wants to know melody, harmony, and production. Feedback on these. Let's see. All right, SoundCloud, our first SoundCloud link. Let's see here. Ooh. All right. Ooh. I love how different all the vibes are and all the styles. All right, Visme from Switzerland. Oh, we have people from all over. I'm geeking out over all this music, guys. Oh my word. Okay, so, wow. That was just wow. Okay, so first off, amazing arrangement, all right? You did a great job using your samples, using your orchestra. It sounded just so big. And there's a couple things. So I actually was actually taking notes. So amazing use of the orchestra and your melody. Your melody is super strong, all right? You did a great job coming through. The structure was awesome. In fact, this moment here, I think it was, where we first hear the melody in full in the cello. Once the melody finishes, you come in with a much larger arrangement. All right, so, and then you added some new layers around the 2-minute 20-second marker where you added the wind ostinato and the flutes and potentially a couple other instruments and stronger percussion. This was awesome. I think you did a great job with the arrangement in general. A couple things that could make it better is to make use of different textures throughout. So you have basically one idea. You've got a counter melody that comes in at one point, but most of it focuses on one melody. And as the size just keeps getting bigger and bigger, it makes it sound more epic. But every time you get bigger to build the energy, the effect becomes less and less. There's only so many times that you can have a big cymbal crash and arrangement before the impact starts to be a little less effective. There are other ways you can do it. So maybe change the texture. That's something John Williams does a lot. Introduce the melody with the cello and the sustained chords with that accompanimental texture. Then, when you repeat it, maybe remove the chords, and now you've got the melody, counter melody and bass line. Maybe during the climactic moment, or just before the climactic moment, you've got more of a counterpoint kind of thing, or a little bit more of a rhythmic thing, before, boom, you return with just that massive statement. So if you play around with the different types of textures, and as a reminder, texture refers to the number and types of layers in your music, that can do wonders. And another thing for making the most out of your music, I think one of the biggest moments in here was actually... down, and then boom, cello. When that cello comes in, that's one of the most impactful moments of this piece. And the reason why is because we have contrast. We have this big sound, but it gets quiet. You have a very quiet, low, intimate sound before then the cello enters with much more intimate sound. And that cello sounds so much bigger, even though here we've got a full orchestra. That solo cello has no business sounding so big compared to the massive orchestra. But the reason why it does is because you allowed that tail to come through, that pause. And so the cello isn't being compared to the previous orchestra, it's being compared to that silence. So that's the final thing I would add is if you want to have big, emotional, impactful moments, the best way to do that is to surround them with smaller ones. And I would say, or introduce something new. And by something new, I mean a new element. Maybe introduce a new instrument you haven't used before. That's why around the 2-minute 23-second marker, repeating the melody is so impactful. Because you introduce 2 new layers. You introduce the flutes and woodwinds on the ostinato, and a much stronger driving percussion. You added something new. So if you can find other ways to introduce that, every time you want a big emotional moment, you can provide contrast by coming back down and then going into something even bigger. Or I should say, you can introduce something new, a new element, a new sound, a new layer, a new texture, a new something to add a new, bigger, dramatic sound. Does that make sense? All in all, this is an incredible piece. I really love it. It's an amazing use of the orchestra. It sounds incredibly cinematic, and I think it's an excellent piece. All right, this is amazing. I think it's great, and yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. All right, keep doing what you're doing. Maybe try playing around with a couple of those things that I mentioned. try different textures. Do a phrase of the theme with the chords based on melody. Then the next phrase, do a different texture. Maybe melody, counter melody, bass line, or melody, ostinato, bass line. Something where you're changing the types and numbers of layers that will help keep the piece developing. And then to make the most out of your most dramatic moments, make use of other strategies instead of just getting bigger and bigger. It's going to make the whole thing sound even more dramatic. Because getting bigger and bigger has a point of diminishing returns. We're getting even bigger, it no longer has the same kind of drop. No longer the same goosebumps you're looking for, right? So there's all kinds of different ways to do that. But beautiful, beautiful. All right, excellent work, Mitchell. Let's see here. Vincent is next. All right, so Vincent has requested feedback on mixing, orchestration, melody, anything that catches my ear. My ear the most. All right, additional notes. Just started composing and writing about a year ago. That's awesome. Loves movie scores, all kinds, but particularly a big fan of Japanese composers like Joe Hisaishi and Hiroyuki Sawano. Oh, yes, I remember your email. Love Sawano and Hisaishi. All right, some of my favorite composers. Amazing music. And first year, just started learning. This is going to be really cool, getting some awesome feedback. When I first started, I was constantly uploading music to Reddit, trying to get feedback. I learned a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, this is awesome. So you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing looking for feedback on your music. Because feedback is how we grow, right? Let's see here. Hybrid orchestration. I'm getting kind of Stranger Things vibes. Wow. Let me see that again. Dude, that's amazing. All right, so I'm getting Stranger Things vibe and a bit of Demon Slayer towards the end of the year. Then of course the choir. Yeah, I'm really getting some. It's like a weird combination of Stranger Things and Demon Slayer. I love it. I'm here for it. This is amazing. Wow, all right, I'm kind of struggling for feedback here. First off, this is your first year? Like, you've been doing this for a year. Oh, man. I wasn't doing anything like this my first year of composing. This is insane. I'd say your orchestration is really spot on. All right? You're doing a great job moving around, especially using the percussion. That's difficult, especially for your first year, is knowing intuitively how to bring in different instruments. You're blending the instrument choices really well. Your melody is strong. The vibe is really... Man, I gotta listen to it again. I gotta find something to critique, right? I gotta give something useful other than just singing your praises. This is amazing. All of you guys are amazing. I'm breathless. Or speechless, I mean. Loving that guitar. wish I had more detailed feedback. I'd say the one thing, because this is a really good piece, especially for just the first year. Man, the only thing I'd say is the ending. Personally, I would have had a moment of pause and then boom, just a nice strong down note, downbeat, like we have this ending, boom, kind of thing. That's not really critique or feedback though. I'd say your orchestration is really strong, your melody is really strong. The only thing I'd say is that mixing is the next thing you can start focusing a bit on. There are a few moments where the lower end comes up a little muddy, and by muddy I mean the lower end starts to blur together a bit. And if you find out how to properly kind of EQ a couple of your instruments to remove some unnecessary room tone from your samples, and just make a little bit more use of panning. But this is all kind of like small critiques. It's all smaller things. This is an excellent piece. Everything everyone has submitted today has been incredibly strong. I'm really proud of you guys. This is awesome stuff. But yeah, right? Yeah, I'm glad to see I'm not the only person who's just kind of overwhelmed by the fact this is only 1 year of progress. But yeah, awesome. Awesome work. Wish I could give something more constructive, but I would say focus on learning a bit more about mixing. It's a small critique, and only born because I needed to say something. But the melody is strong, the orchestration is strong. It's all really good. All right, you guys are all blowing my mind. All right, this is amazing. Let's move on though. That was Vincent, right? Vincent, excellent. Patience, Zero Music. We've got time for a couple more. Don't worry, if I do not get to yours today, I will be going live again next week and reviewing additional pieces then. But you know what? I think we should be able to get to everything today. Let's see here. Patience, Zero Music. I like to mixing advice for this track. If there's any other lessons or advice for this track, I'm glad to hear. Ways to spruce it up, ear candy. So mixing, ear candy, and general advice. Additionals, any crackling is not clipping. It's CPU related and it isn't present in the render. No worries, no worries. Here we go. We're not looking for professional grade stuff, right? Just looking for what you got. Let's see here. was awesome. I love the vibe. All right, and it's again. I mentioned Stranger Things earlier for the last piece, but this kind of got the similar vibe, at least at the very beginning, and then it kind of morphed into a bit of a. It started sounding more cyberpunk, as not necessarily the video game, but the genre to me. Really cool hack music theory. I see that this is probably based off a video of theirs that they shared. I love hack music theory. They are one of the first channels I found when I was first learning to compose. They've got great videos, really cool tips. This is awesome. All right, so one thing you did really, really well for this piece actually goes back to what we were talking about with Mitchell's piece. I think it was called Flourish. The idea is you move the size around a lot, and that keeps it interesting. So around like the 2-minute marker, I think, is when you got strongest. Yep, around. So yeah, well, watch. We've got all of these layers that we're working with. We've got a nice big, lustrous, wide sound, and then we come back down. And then using the incremental complexity that we had brought up from Remy, the first piece that we reviewed, you reintroduce the layers one at a time and help it build this transition. So that was just really kind of cool for me to see. That's a combination of multiple things we've talked about so far. One is that when you start with something large and then you come right back down to something smaller, it gets more life. It makes it more interesting. It makes it sound like it's developing, which of course it is. But then when you came back, instead of just coming right into another large section, you used that idea of incremental complexity, adding one layer at a time, which gave you more mileage, more bang for your buck. It helped it take a little bit more time, develop, and be interesting the entire time. Now, 2 things. So you might have noticed throughout that I was doing kind of one of these, pulling one ear off the other. It's that I was checking the panning of your mix. And so something that you didn't really do a lot of was you didn't pan much. Now, panning means how you move. Is there more coming out of the left side, more out of the right, whatever you're doing for your headphones, for the speakers. But it gives you a space for each instrument. Now, most panning software, whether it's a dedicated plugin or just part of your DAW, I have no idea what DAW this is, but it has 2 elements. One is the stereo direction, which is how far left, how far right is the sound on your stage. Because if you visualize each of these instruments as being on a stage, you can see, all right, that instrument's to the far left, that instrument's to the far right. And the next one is how wide, stereo width. All right, so a single piano player has a very narrow spot. You can identify exactly where they are on stage. Whereas an entire violin section, that's upwards to like 16 people, all right, for first violins. And they're all sitting in that general area. So is this a very narrow spot where you can pinpoint one player? Or is it wider? It's got a wider sound because it's coming from more space. So you can use panning to give each instrument more of a specific space on your digital stage, which would do wonders for helping to clean up the sound a little bit. And then the second one was learning, like I said, I think in one of the previous pieces, a little bit about EQ. Not a lot, just a little bit to help remove some of the room tone, remove some of the super highs that you don't need, and make space for the different layers, because you do have a lot going on. So I would prioritize learning how to use panning to create individual spots for your instruments, and then maybe just a little bit IQ. It would make the mix sound way cleaner, and it'd be even better than it is. But this was a fantastic piece. Thank you for sharing it. Let's see here. Awesome. So that was Patience 0. That was awesome. I'm having a lot of fun, guys. This May, and I'm saying that a lot. I'm not just saying it. I'm genuinely enjoying myself. This is relaxing and fun for me. So thank you, everybody who submitted your music and trusted me to give feedback and not be a total dick with how I give it back. Because I know that's not fun when someone tears apart your music, but at the same time, it's not fun when you feel like someone's just spouting out what you want to hear. I'm trying to be deliberate with the feedback I give, because I've genuinely enjoyed every single piece I've listened to so far, and I'm trying to give actionable things that you can walk away with and actually say, all right, awesome, proud of the piece I submitted, and now I know how to make the next one even better. All right, so Vismay requests, how is the composition and arrangement? What can I do better? Are there any bumps or holes? How does it work together with video and dialogue? And what can I do better? Ooh, video and dialogue. Sounds like we're about to, I'm just going to copy. I'm just going to copy and paste that onto here so I can remember what you want feedback on. It sounds like we're about to get a video, like an actual film scoring kind of thing. Is it going to be a scene or a clip or a trailer? Ooh, a trailer. That's it. This is going to be fun.
The day you left from Marseille, I drove to the airport. I went to the gift shop and I saw this necklace. It was gold, said Stillwater on it. I thought it'd be a little piece of home to take with you. This is my daughter.
You're the father of the girl, the American student?
Yes, ma'am.
Allison came here for college, and that's where she met this girl, Lena. One night she found Lena's dad and called the police. All they cared about was Allison sleeping with some Arab girl.
I loved her.
I'm not with you.
When I met her, so I liked her. We have exhausted every possible galaxy. Is the lawyer not helping you?
I'll do it myself for now.
I will.
What's your name? Maya.
She's very protective of me.
You seen that guy before?
No one wants to you, trust me. I'm not from you. It's not safe.
She's my little girl.
Dad, please.
I'm not gonna give up.
It will be a serious mistake to commit a crime to prove your daughter innocent. It will not get her out of jail. And it will send your baby.
Please keep them off of analysis.
Amen.
Did you ask her to lie?
I'm trying to get my little girl out of jail. That's all I give a damn about.
You sound very American right now.
Good. I am.
Yeah, and you're also a stranger here.
What can you do?
You just have to trust me.
Wow, I got pulled into that one. I don't even think I was trying to react. That was good. Vismay, great work. Have I been liking everybody's? If I didn't like your video or your thing, I'm sorry. I've been meaning to do that. Let me make sure. Patient 0. Did I like that? I think. Let me open everybody's. I do have feedback. I want to make sure that I like it. I don't want anybody to be left out. All right. I think. Yep. I liked this one. Patient 0. There we go. Patient 0. Did I like this one? I did. Good. Good. All right. Sorry about that. I'm a little paranoid about not showing support for people. But Vismay. All right. Stillwater rescore. That was. I kind of want to watch the movie now. That seemed like a really good movie. All right, so the things I'm going to focus on right now are how your music interacted well with the footage. All right, so with this, there were a couple things. First off, the music followed the pacing really, really well for the first half. All right, awesome. And for most of it as well. It followed really well. That emotional strings and piano just worked really, really well with the visuals. All right, you helped build energy without sacrificing emotion for the first half. I mean, if we rewatch this,
I went
noticing
to the
just
gift
the
shop
piano,
and I saw this necklace.
and it grows.
It was gold.
Got a nice little
said
scissor
Stillwater
effect.
on it. I thought it'd be a little piece of home.
You
to
follow
take
the
with you.
energy really well and really hit the emotion effectively for this first half. And you grow. Where is it though? There's a moment where. There we go. Then it changes a bit.
The father of the girl,
And the energy is about to build
Yes, ma'am.
right here.
Allison came
All
here
right.
for college.
With each major hit point, with each shift in the story, you build the energy, you build the stakes, and that works really, really well. All right. The one thing where it stops working as effectively is around the 130 marker.
You seen that guy before?
No one will succeed, trust me. And not from you. It's not safe to you.
All right, so that's great. So that hit point, you hit the energy, you hit the shift really well. What I would do is you're switching styles very dramatically. And you're trying to switch styles underneath dialogue and having a smooth transition. That's where it gets tricky. Don't always worry about trying to have a smooth transition. So what I would do here, if I had my druthers, you're going right here. Now that the visuals have changed so much, start to have your strings come back down much, much quicker. Have them kind of fade out. Be comfortable with a moment of silence because the audience doesn't know how dramatically it's about to change. And you can help set that up by having the music that's been following us for the first minute and a half start to fade out. And strings are out, just since, then you have your big hit. All right, so when you remove the original kind of emotional thing, then have your big dramatic hit with a new style, don't be afraid to just trust the audience to just listen to the dialogue and cut out the music a bit. Don't make it a dramatic cut. But as that shift happens, I'd have the strings come out earlier, sooner, so that we're just left with some synths from the previous piece, and then the big dramatic shift hits with that punch. Not sure if that makes sense. I don't know if I've explained myself. I'm getting pretty tired. Yeah. Let's see here. And then the last one was around 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Around here, my note is the energy is good.
Yeah, and you're also a stranger here.
That the energy is amazing, but the emotion disappeared. Don't forget that energy is fantastic, energy is important, but the primary responsibility of the music is to emphasize and enhance the emotion. There's a lot of emotion in this story, so don't sacrifice it for just trying to hit as much kind of synthetic percussion energy as you can. So if you could find a way to keep the energy going without sacrificing the emotion, it would be even more impactful. I think you did that perfectly for the first half of the trailer, and then once it started getting into much more of an action type film, the emotion started to fall back a little bit. But awesome, fantastic. I kind of want to watch this movie now. I'd never heard of it. It looks like it's got Matt Damon in it. It looks like it's an amazing storyline, and of course the music for the trailer was really cool. So great job, great work. All right, there we go, awesome. So that was Visme, awesome. Let's see here. Visme, looks like you have a retracted message. Sorry about that. Hopefully it's because I answered a question. But yeah, if anybody has questions about your feedback, throw them in the comments as well. We are getting to the bottom of it. We've got 4 more to go. I'm getting very tired. It's very warm in here. But hopefully I'll get through the rest of these. Let's see here. Kath Ruth. Do the bass line and melody work together? Wrote a bass line that moves by thirds and tried writing a melody over it. Ooh, Tertion harmony. Not sure if it's good or dissonant. How are the hit points? Is there any Mickey Mousing? Is there arrangement, instrument choice? Another video. Let's see here. Ooh, television show intro. I'm liking the vibe right off the bat. Is that you? I don't recognize the choir sound from Blackberry. So that'd be really cool if you recorded yourself. I love it when people do that. was awesome. I love that. That's trippy and uncomfortable almost. Like all the visuals. That's, I gotta see that. Like this camera work is really weird, and the music just gives it a creepy vibe. I love this. The harmony is great. It's not too dissonant. It's crunchy, but it fits the vibe really well. And your hit points are really cool. All right, I'm going to get sucked into watching the whole thing again, so I got to try and stop because we are on time limit. This is really well done. All right, so really cool kind of composition, right? I love the idea that you worked with Tertion harmony. It gives a great vibe, moving the bass line by thirds and building over on top of that. Fantastic strategy. And the cool thing about such abstract videos is there's not really any hit points that you need to hit. There are a few moments like at the beginning when the elevator doors open where you kind of hit and add the melody or whatever new layer that was. That works really well, but the cool thing about these abstract kind of videos is that you do not need to worry about any hit points. Because if you've seen my videos on film scoring, you might know already that hit points have to do when something happens on screen that results in new information. That new information results in a new emotional experience by the audience, a new understanding of the story, or just something similar. It moves the story along. In an opening credits like this, there's not a lot of sense that can be made from the visuals, so you don't need to worry about hit points quite as badly. But you did do really well hitting a couple of the key kind of visuals, so great work with that. My tip for this is the only thing I'd say I'd focus on is it doesn't sound like all of your instruments were mixed with the same reverb. I would recommend learning in how to use reverb to create the room around you. Because a lot of these instruments, you can tell they were recorded in a different room. It's nothing major, but if I'm being picky to try and make it even better, if you can find a way to build the reverb around these instruments a little bit better, you can help it can help create a more cohesive sound that would make the whole thing sound even better. All in all, amazing arrangement. I would recommend doing what you're doing so far. Just kind of learn a little bit more about the mixing and the reverb. Now, shameless plug, I do have a ebook available on my website. I think it's like $20. That does have a chapter on reverb. It's about mixing and MIDI mockups. So if anyone is interested in that, also talks about the panning, which I mentioned earlier. But the idea is how you can make each instrument sound like it's in the same room. It'll make the whole thing sound more cohesive and sound even better and more professional. But awesome work. Ooh, I want to make sure I like it. Great work. I kind of want to see the show now, too. Well, maybe I don't. It freaks me out. I feel very uncomfortable watching this video for some reason. Don't know why. But the music works really well with it. All right. Excellent work, Kath. All right. Three more. Unknown. All right. Any questions for me, guys? Everybody's being a little bit quiet now. Hopefully everybody's just kind of getting sucked into the music like I am, but I'm not seeing many comments. Let's see here. Unknown. Is this transition around a minute? Okay. Does it count as a B theme? Has trouble expanding on the original idea? Is the melody set up properly to slide into another part, or does it need to be set up differently? Additional notes? Loves my Ghibli series. Thank you. I'm glad you like the Ghibli series. That was one of my favorite pieces to put together. Playlist. Let's give a listen. Yes, the stream will be available afterwards. All of my streams are available afterwards. They get uploaded so you can rewatch it at any time. Good question, Beast Man. I love that flute. I love the drums too. Sounds like a marimba. That was really fun. I really enjoyed that. So, definitely gave me kind of some Nintendo vibes, and for some reason, like underwater vibes too. I think the combination of like the bongos, it sounds like you got the flute and the marimba. Those are all kind of aquatic instruments, if that makes sense. They're used very commonly for like underwater scenes, just kind of tropical ocean type music. I love the vibe. So you asked about the 1 minute marker and the transition. All right, so it was an abrupt transition. I will say that. We'll go back just so everybody knows what we're talking about. And then right here. So a couple things happen. One, the texture changes. All right, we've got a smaller size, much more rhythmic chords instead of sustained. We've changed the timbre. We're now focusing on the piano and not so much flutes and strings. And the energy increases. So whether or not this is an effective transition depends on what your goals are. Is it a smooth transition? Not entirely, but not every transition needs to be smooth. Some work really well with a sudden shift. It depends on what your goal is. If you're looking for a smoother transition, you're going to want to try and change those things more gradually. So what I mentioned, we changed the texture, which as a reminder is a number and type of layers in your music. We changed the color, or the types of instruments being focused on, and we changed the energy amount by using shorter, more repetitive rhythmic ideas. We've got those three things. If you wanted to smooth it out, I'd say over the course of 4 or so measures, you want to change one thing at a time. All right, so maybe 4 measures out, you start adding just a little bit more energy by maybe having a subtle piano bouncing in the background. And then a next measure or 2, you start to transform the texture a little bit. Go from sustained chords to rhythmic chords, not all at once, maybe sustained chords, and then you start making like, instead of once every measure, you go twice every measure that they re-articulate. But you do a smoother transition. So when I've talked about making transitions in music before, if you want it to be smooth, you need to figure out where are you going to end up and where are you starting across texture, harmony, melody, all kinds of things. Identify what are the most important changes. And here, just to reiterate them, it's the texture, the timbre, and the energy level. Those are the 3 things I noticed, at least, just by listening to it once. If you want to make that smoother, you got to find out where am I starting for texture-wise? For texture-wise, it was melody and sustained chords, I believe. And where we're going to end up is melody, rhythmic chords, rhythmic bass line. So we need to find a way to transition from A to B gradually. So maybe sustained chords and melody with a slightly more rhythmic bass line. Then sustained melody, somewhat rhythmic chords, somewhat rhythm bass line, then getting more and more rhythmic until boom, you arrive at the whole new change. Does that make sense? But I think the transition worked really well. But if you wanted to go smoother, that's something you could do. And yeah, the B theme, that totally counts as the B theme. All right, remember, a B theme does not need to be as prominent, as lengthy, as intricate as the primary melody. Of course it can be if you want to, but I shouldn't say the only, but the primary responsibility of a B theme is to provide contrast. Add something different, so like we've mentioned in a couple previous pieces, we can enter with something fresh. And then we return to something new, or something old, something we've heard already. That new, fresh material helps clean it and prepare it so that the old material sounds interesting and developed. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I'm getting very tired. It doesn't help that it's very warm in this studio. All right, last two. Ryan. All right, request feedback on the overall arrangement and sound quality. Can do. Those are the easiest things to give feedback on, because they're the easiest things to notice just by listening.
Going into an office, working 50 hours a week, having that structure.
I like the backdrop. There's a story. I'm loving this. Fantastic contrast. All right, right off the bat, I'm gonna stop reading the story real quick. Having this shift in mood, energy, color, texture, everything helps keep the music interesting. So amazing job. instruments come up. That was really well done. All right, Ryan, great job. All right, so 2 things that stuck out to me. One is that you did an excellent job telling the story with your music. I loved reading the story. I always love having a story to accompany music, and being able to picture that as the music unfolded was amazing. You did a great job telling the story because you brought the size and texture up and down, which we've talked about that earlier in this same stream, is how the big moments sound even bigger when they have a bookend of smaller, more intimate sections. That helped keep it interesting, that helped it keep feeling like it was growing and actually getting bigger. Now, if I were to improve it, one thing I would do is I noticed that your use of the instruments stayed relatively stale throughout the entire 6-7 minute piece. And by that I mean the melody, for example, was almost always in the strings, and the counter melody, there was almost always a counter melody with brass instruments. Now, to get more mileage out of these ideas, more mileage out of your melodies, out of your themes and development, you could try switching that around a bit. Maybe one moment, the one section, the melody is in very loud screaming trumpets, and you've got the high violins doubling an octave lower. Maybe the next section that you will need it to be dramatic, you go in the opposite direction. And now the trombones are playing a thunderous, powerful variation of the melody underneath. Maybe during the sweeter moments, you have the flutes playing. The idea is that you can move around. These instruments don't have to play the same part. The first violins don't always have to play the melody for the big dramatic part. So that's something that you can add even more interest, even more development. You do a great job of controlling texture and size. The next thing is each time you're trying to create something big, try something new. Try a different instrument in the lead, maybe a different instrument in the support. Try different combinations of instruments, and it'll be amazing how much better your music can sound. Not that this wasn't great. This is amazing. I loved it. It's a 7-minute piece of music that I sat down and genuinely enjoyed. All right, so amazing work. But for like the feedback on how you can take it even further, that's the next big thing you can do, is to learn how to use the instruments in different roles. It'll do wonders for your music, my friend. Excellent work. Excellent work. We only have one more that we're going to do today. I know I have a couple of emails still that people sent. So very sorry if I haven't touched on your music yet today. I did keep a hard cutoff point yesterday, and a couple people I didn't find that I got this morning. So I apologize if we haven't gone through your music yet. I will do another one of these next week, where we'll go through all of the music and give feedback again. But last one from Sheath. Here we go, requests. There were no requests for specific feedback. And additional notes, loves Ghibli music, awesome. And wanted to write something in a similar style, but with a few lo-fi elements. Ooh. This will be nice. This is going to be fun. Oh yeah, I love that one. Oh, I can't like it. Oh, it says private. Delicious extended instruments and chords. Ooh. That was a vibe. I really enjoyed that. Oh, that was relaxing. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Good job, Sheath. All of you guys have done an amazing job. I've been impressed by every piece of music today. Oh, man, I was kind of zoning out there for a moment, just enjoying it. It's kind of difficult to come up with stuff to give feedback for. A couple times, the only thing I'd say, there were a few moments where the performances could have been cleaned up a little bit. By performances, I mean the articulation points. I don't know if this was on purpose, but it sounds like your flute sample had a very long attack, and of course a piano has a very crisp attack. So there are points where they kind of sound out of sync with each other. And if it's possible to try and find a way to kind of clean those, to make them sound like they're playing together a bit more, it'd be great. It'd make it sound cleaner, a little more polished. But other than that, this is a really strong piece. You did a great job. You kind of were a great example of several things we've talked about today already. Incremental complexity, changing the texture and size, and even with our most recent piece, making sure that you move the instruments around. At that point where you brought in this string quartet was such a different sound than what we've heard. It worked really well to develop that simple melodic idea that it gets repeated multiple times, but each in different arrangements and different sounds. This is a really beautiful piece. I'm very impressed. But yeah, I'd say just a couple of moments. The best thing I'd say that you could focus on is finding a way to clean up those performances a bit. Human performances are amazing. They give a lot of personality, but every once in a while you want to clean them up a little bit to make sure that the attacks are lined up. Other than that, it's kind of hard to give specific feedback. This was just a really well done piece, my friend. Good job. And with that, I am tired. I gotta get out of this room. It's too hot. But thank you to everyone who submitted music. If we didn't get to yours today, I apologize. We will next week. Thank you again, everybody. I really enjoyed myself. This was a lot of fun to just kind of sit back and listen to your music. Everyone's music was beautiful. It was so well done, and I can't wait to hear what else I've been sent. All right, so thank you, everyone. For anyone who's still on, last couple announcements. I've got to plug myself. I got to make money somehow. So, I've got books, ebooks on my website. Today is the very last day you can sign up for my Emotions in Music class. It has already started. We are in the first week, but it's not too late to start and get caught up on the first week's material. But after today, it's locked down, and you will have to wait another 6 or 7 weeks before it opens up again. So yeah, give that a check out if you're interested. Until next time, my friends, keep studying, keep working hard, and keep writing new music. I will see you all in the next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye.